subscription to 58, yes, 58 women, one of them being a good friend we know in real life. Jesus. Some of you have been saying, Joseph, you're being way too harsh with some of these stories that you were reviewing. You don't know the circumstances behind many of these stories. And whilst I can concede that that is true, I think lust is the last enemy. I think your reflex towards lust should be something that you draw a fine line between accepting and refusing and completely revolting against, right? So, speaking of stories, speaking of things that make you scratch your head and go, how? How does it get to this, right? To start off, this individual is 20 years old. It's a woman writing this, 20 years old. And my husband is 23, got married really young. I like to see it. I do like to see it. We had kids young, married young. Our children are 2 and 3. Wow, so they started having kids when they were, when he was at least 20 and she was 17. Goodness. I am curious about what the reflex was for marriage and maybe if this was intentional or not. Back in March, when I was looking at bank statements, I found onlyfools charges, paid cam girls, and it hurt me naturally, I would imagine. I really don't get the fascination. Well, that's a lie. I do get the fascination with it. I think the market for onlyfools and cam really speaks to the hole in emotional sensibility that men are facing right now. A lot of men are lonely and they lack that companionship. They're not just looking for... It's naive of me, and this is where I do, again, concede to you guys. It is naive for me to just conclude this whole debauchery, this whole degenerate time we are living in to purely a reflex of men not being able to control their sexual reflex, but in fact, a more, what would you say, fastidious, analytical conclusion of what's really happening here is men are lonely. Men don't have companionship. Men are finding it very, very difficult to find women who they can be sexually attracted to and also share some companionship with as well. And, I count myself very, very lucky in that I've always had, fairly good friends around me, and I'm fairly self-sustaining. I don't think of, I never get lonely. I think people mistake me for being lonely for being peaceful. Peaceful, right? I've been living alone now for 2 years. I've got lots of friends in the area, but the peace, the serenity, the tranquility is unmatched in my short time in this particular incarnation. Anyway, back to the story here. My trust broken. I felt insecure. It's almost torn me apart. But we worked through it, and he promised he'd never do it again. But 8 months later, here we are. I got his credit card statement in the mail, and read it to see what the minimum balance was, and there were new onlyfools charges. I mean, this individual's IQ is probably not in the 3 digits by the looks of his particular systems here. Because why wouldn't you check? Why are you doing this on the shared account? This is nonsense. You deserve to be caught. If we're being honest here. My heart sunk. I felt frozen. Everything had been fine between us. I thought it was a mistake and they'd fixed it and we'd moved on for it. But I spent the next 2 days trying to sign into his accounts. A mistake, I know, but for some reason I thought I'd feel better if I saw the content he's viewing and purchasing. What I was not expecting to see was this dating all the way back to June of 2021 when I was 9 months pregnant. Subscription to 58, yes, 58 women, one of them being a good friend we know in real life. Jesus, that really speaks to the sexual liberation idea and how it's not synonymous to the average woman with sexual degeneracy. That a person from school is doing this, is selling intimacy. This is the pervasiveness of this kind of work. Now, I mean, I wouldn't really call it work. I would call it selling your soul, selling your body, selling your intimacy. Kills you. Really kills you. And to see that most of the purchases were made when I was a few days postpartum. Most of the purchases made around 2 or 3 a.m. Imagine that. I mean, you have to have a a sick kind of reflex in you to do this after the birth of your child. I really don't know. I mean, I'm struggling to rationalize it. You guys have to convince me. I'm looking to you guys as a reference as well of how to kind of react. But I think for me, especially when I read so much material about divinity, generativity, being a righteous man, and I see this, my mind just goes, oh, how far we have fallen. Oh, how far we have fallen. Like, the reference points for male role models nowadays is so dire, is so bare. It crushes my soul to see this, because I see this man as a kind of, as a brother, as somebody who could be a friend that may be hiding this from me. And as much as I don't want to associate with this kind of behavior, I want to know that there are better ways out of this. There are ways that are more conducive to actualizing those words I said before: divinity, generativity, righteousness. This is what we aspire to be in this. As a 23-year-old man, maybe I can have some semblance, because I don't think I was particularly intelligent or articulate or even, particularly moral when I was a 23-year-old man. But I certainly don't think I would be acting like this if this was the context of my life. The thought of an 18-year-old me trying to console a screaming newborn while he was in the next room buying news and photos or videos breaks me to my core. I get that. I was shocked when I saw the charges for the first time, surprised when I found the new ones on a credit card the other day, and downright blown away tonight when I found out how long this had been going for and how many women this was. 58 people, 58 women. I love him. I know that divorce is a painful process, but I can't ever trust him again. What on earth would you do? What on earth would you do if this is a brother of yours, if this is somebody that, again, you have compassion and empathy for? What is the way out of this? I think back to what I was threading in the conversation here. The symptom. We need to treat this, we're not treating the symptoms, we're treating the cause of this. And this is, I believe, a lack of companionship. So, perhaps there's something in this for me to ask this particular individual if she feels that she's meeting this individual's, emotional needs. I bet he doesn't have many friends. He's got 2 kids. He's very, very young. I imagine that he's working a lot, and I don't imagine that there's a lot of, time to kind of provide an emotional outlet or an emotional conduit to allow this individual to kind of, what would you say, find some kind of balance, find some kind of equilibrium in his life. Maybe you could make a compelling argument there, but the other ones I'm struggling to find here. Let's see what everybody else is saying. It's obvious he's not ready to be committed to you and only you. There's a difference between regular and OF. You have to make a plan to leave him, or else this will continue. He's not going to change anytime soon, especially at 23 years old. I don't think I necessarily agree with that. I believe, and this might be a bold thing to say, but I believe that the use of adult material, especially something as intimate as onlyfools and cam girls, is an emotional kind of cheating and infidelity. And put it this way: if you found your wife looking at adult material, and especially if she was subscribing to a sole creator who made intimate and sexual content, what would be your reflex? My reflex would not be good. It would make me believe that I could not trust that individual. But then again, 23 years old, I was an idiot at 23 years old. I was barely started at 23 years old. I think we have a knee-jerk reaction in Western culture to think that, if you're 23, even hell, if you're 25, that you are mature. That's not the case. Your neocortex, your brain isn't fully developed until you're 25 years old. So only after 25 years old, 26, that's your first year of maturity, and you're still figuring things out. So, I don't necessarily believe that things are going to get worse, but it's certainly not a good start for our friend here. This other individual's done the math here. Average OF subscription is like $10 to $15, which means he's spending $580 to $870 a month on this. That is negligent, disrespectable. That's abhorrent behavior. Yeah, especially if you have children. Maybe my reasoning is right from the first place. This is not something that should be tolerated. But as much as I am a compassionate person, I do believe shame and allowing people to feel the pain and the shame of their mistakes is a necessary component to the individual changing their behavioral recourse. They have to feel that. And if it means being served papers, if it means, you're not fit to be a father and lead your children because you cannot lead yourself. Think about this. How can you expect to lead your wife, lead your children if you can't even lead yourself? You can't even lead yourself. You're spending, and inflation, what it is at the moment. I mean, goodness gracious, mate. How does your soul, how does your mentality be commensurate with this kind of spending? Is beyond me. But again, we don't know what's behind the scene. I'm jumping back and forth between each side here because I'm trying to see maybe some kind of reasoning in this, but it's a struggle. It's a struggle to me. If this was a client of mine, I would give him a big slap across the. I was going to say the wrist, but maybe the face is a more necessary place to aim that particular strike, because this is reprehensible behavior in my personal opinion. What do you think, guys? Are these theories or are these facts? Let me know if I'm on the money here or if I'm not. And what do you think about the notion of lust being the last enemy and being, placing this fervent wall and barrier between you allowing yourself to identify with that kind of emotion? Because I believe if you're able to keep it at bay, if you're able to disidentify with it and not let it take control of your life, that's 90% of your life sorted. They say that life is 90% how you handle your emotions, especially the negative ones, especially temptation. So, let me know.